Okay, so this is the big day, potentially all the way home today. We'll see how that pans out. But we're just leaving Norseman now at 10 to 7, which is the earliest that we've... Don't really like leaving this early, to be honest, because there's just a chance of a bit of the wildlife still being around. So we're going to take it very easy for the first hour and just keep our eyes peeled. But yes, Norseman done. We're going to aim for Coolgardie, which is just a couple of hours, a bit less than an hour and 40 minutes up the road. And just grab a coffee there. It's going to be a case of trying to keep going today, I think, is going to be the tricky bit, because it's about 8 hours travelling if we do decide to go all the way. The fallback plan...
Coffee every so often.
Yeah. The fallback plan is if we get to Meriden, which is about 5 hours away, and don't want to do another 3 hours, because once we leave Meriden, we've got to do another 3 hours basically. Then there is a motel in Meriden that appears to be pretty crappy, but we just crash there and then carry on tomorrow. So there you go, that's the plan. Last night where we stayed at the Norseman, what was it, the Great Western, Angie?
Best Western.
Best Western.
It's very nice.
It's very, very nice. We stayed there once before, and I didn't book the rooms the last time, and we finished up with a much nicer room this time. So it was very acceptable. It was the compressed earth walls, the big thick wall, I can't think what they call them now. But yeah, interesting room. Had a very nice meal actually last night, which sadly I forgot to take any photos of. And you had a Sunday roast and I had fish and chips, but it was all very nice. So yeah, I'm not sure whether that place has changed hands. It seems to be a lot better organised, and just generally they seem to be on top of things a lot more than the last time I was there, which is probably 12-18 months ago. But yeah, it was all very nice.
Go back, wouldn't you?
You what, sorry babe?
You'd go back again, wouldn't you?
Oh, I'd definitely go back. I mean, it's in the perfect spot.
It is.
It's just at the beginning of the Nullarbor, so if you're travelling over east, it's where you've got to get to first, and then you start the big call over east. No, don't book a budget room. That was what we had last time, and you couldn't open the door into the bathroom because the bed was in the way. So the pilot vehicle has just passed and requested that people stop, because we've got two extremely large Tonka toys coming down the road. They fill the bloody road, don't they? Look at that.
Wow. How can them vehicles move with that weight on them? Centurion, he's used to carrying.
It's big.
Carriage doors, isn't he?
A bit. Right, let's get in front of these scooter boys. Oh, there you go. That's not an uncommon scene in WA, that. No. Because of all the mining here, there's some massive vehicles, and they've got to get them up to and back from the mines, I suppose. So, yeah, kind of interesting. So about halfway to Coolgardie and our first stop at the moment. So we'll crack on and see you at brew time. Okay, so we had a quick stop at Coolgardie, and the wife suddenly decided she fancied a sausage, And if the wife fancies a sausage, then the wife gets a sausage. So we made our way through to Meriden, and we made quite a good time actually, about 5 hours, just a tiny touch over 5 hours. Which, considering we stopped in Coolgardie for 20-25 minutes, that was pretty good. So anyway, we stopped in Meriden, we just had a coffee and a cake, and the next stop now, 2 hours further down the track, is 2J, which is only about an hour from home. So we're going to make it home fairly comfortable. We should be home for around about 3:30, 4 o'clock-ish. So we're doing pretty good. Angie's microphone in her helmet has just come adrift for the third time this trip. I don't know how that keeps happening, but we've just stuffed it to one side, so Angie can't speak. Well, she can speak and I can hear her, but you can't hear her, so think yourself lucky. So 2 hours, almost home. So basically we're minutes away from home now. We've managed it in one day. So it's about 750 k's we've done today in one go. It was 8 hours in the seat, about 9 hours total travelling, but it's been quite okay, to be honest. It's not been half as bad as I expected. So that is basically it. That is the trip pretty much over. It's been about 3.5 weeks. There's been a lot of good, there's been a little bit of bad. So what I'm going to do now, as if by magic, I'm just going to fast forward you a couple of days, and we'll just sit down and we'll explain some of the good, some of the bad, what we've learned, what we knew before we left. So anybody thinking of doing a decent length trip, especially 2 up fully loaded on a GS, you'll probably find this interesting. So don't go anywhere. I'll just go and stick the kettle on. Back in a tick. Right, so a few days have passed, and we're now back home, and it's all in the dim and distant, isn't it? Now it's all over.
Yeah.
It was a great trip. I think we both enjoyed it. We learned a lot. I think we learned a lot, didn't we?
I enjoyed it.
I suppose first of all, as far as the bike's concerned, the bike was absolutely faultless. It didn't miss a beat. We did best part of 8,000 kilometres. Bike was perfect. We did have 1 or 2 little issues, but that wasn't the bike's fault. One of the things that was a bit unforeseen was the bike has self-adjusting suspension, and because of the pillion weight and the luggage weight, yeah,
no legs.
Yeah, it was something we should have tried out beforehand. I intended to do a little test ride, didn't we? No, we couldn't have done anything about it. But what came as a little bit of a shock was because of the having a pillion on there and the additional weight, the bike raises its suspension quite a lot to allow for if you hit a pothole or something like that. Because the bike was as high as it's ever been, really, and I did speak to my mechanic and actually said to him before we went, can I just leave it in the low setting for the whole month? And he said, that's not a very good idea, you'll probably blow a seal. So we left it in auto. Bike did its own thing, it went very high. I was a bit tippy-toe, which, because a lot of the time we stopped on sand and gravel and such like, that felt a little bit unsafe. And the biggest issue was you, wasn't it? Angie's relatively short, and because the bags were high on the bike, actually getting on and off it, she couldn't throw a leg over the top box because it was too high. She had to sort of try and slide a leg in. We did try Angie getting on the bike first, but that didn't work too well with me. I've got a slightly dodgy left knee, so it felt like I might knacker my knee. So anyway, that was a little bit of an issue that we didn't foresee. Things that we were a bit concerned about. The thing with WA is there's a lot of, Australia, there's a lot of long distances. And
kangaroos.
We kind of thought
emus.
boredom might be a little bit of an issue if you're riding for 4, 5, in some cases 6 hours a day. Absolutely wasn't an issue at all, was it?
No.
The bike was super comfortable. Obviously,
Yeah.
we have the intercoms, as you've heard us chatting. The time went quick. I don't think we ever rode for more than 2 hours in one go.
No, we just stopped and had a
And it just wasn't an
Lonely
issue. The
ice
distance
cream,
wasn't an issue. Comfort that we was a little bit concerned about. Absolutely
issue.
no issues whatsoever.
Comfy's
On that
my
last
colour
day,
one.
as you, yeah, Angie's actually fallen asleep
Never.
twice on the back of that bike.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Only for a second.
only for a
As I
second.
hit your head.
On that last day, we did 8. I think it was about 8 hours travelling
Well,
in
we set
total.
off at 10 to 7 and got home, what, 3-ish, half?
Ah, it was a long day, but it was easy. It was relatively easy. If we had to do that again the next day and the next day, you could do it. It wouldn't.
Wouldn't
I
have
mean,
been an issue,
it
would it?
wouldn't really have been an issue.
No.
As far as accommodation was concerned, again, you're a little bit limited in parts of WA and some
Just the
parts.
Nullarbor.
Yeah, over the Nullarbor. We basically paid for the best accommodation we could find. If you've watched all of these videos and if you've got this far, thank you very much for sticking with us. You'll see that some of the places that we stayed in, you probably thought, oh, God.
Some of them were basic.
Some of them were very
Very
basic, but believe me, they were the best that were available in that location. So we did stay in some nice places, and we stayed in some places that they were the nicest that were available. So we didn't skimp in terms of what we were spending, and I'll come back to that in a minute. But some of them were a bit basic, weren't they? And what you also find in those more basic locations, the food is a bit more basic. Pretty much everywhere we went, it was the same thing. Chicken parmy and chips, steak and chips, fish and chips, everything came with chips.
But it was all okay.
It was all okay. So yeah, the things we had concerns about turned out not to be a concern. We were pretty lucky with weather. We got a few spots of rain here and there, didn't we? We
No,
didn't
it
really.
forecast, but it didn't always
Yeah,
happen.
we got
It only rained once in Adelaide, didn't
Yeah, we didn't have much rain at all. Excuse
We
me.
never got wet because we had the gear, but we got geared up for it a few times and never got wet anyway.
Yeah, we
did
put our gear on a few times.
That was the one day I couldn't get on the bike.
That was
very
when she
easily
really
because
struggled.
I've got 4 layers on because it said it was going to be really cold and wet, and it wasn't that
Angie,
cold and it wasn't that wet.
That was so funny, and we didn't
But-
have the cameras running.
We did. We have got it on. It was.
Did we get it? Did we get it?
Yeah,
I can't
it was
remember whether it's
outside
in.
one
It
of the
wasn't.
motels.
Kind of. Yeah, kind
think
of.
we got it
Because she
anyway.
had about 4 layers on with
And I was-
thermals
I
and a
was ill as
jeans,
well, I was
and
tired.
she couldn't bend a leg.
I just
But
couldn't
anyway.
get my leg up and over. Claire.
So
I did it in the end. But
yeah, we got there in the end. Being too hot and being too cold, again, wasn't really an issue, was it?
Never cold.
There was the never cold. There was the odd occasion where we were a bit warm. The thing that we did find a little bit frustrating, and it's just the nature of 2 people on one bike, I suppose. We were very loaded up, and when we stopped anywhere, maybe to go and see if there was some accommodation available in a motel or something, pretty much one of you had to stay with the bike all the time.
well, the first
Because we
time we
couldn't-
tried to see the bite because we were going to have
Yeah,
to
yeah,
go through
yeah.
that whale thing. He said, "I don't want to leave the bike."
There was a
with all
few
the luggage, the
occasions where
cameras and
you
everything
don't
on it.
want to leave all your stuff where
If the
it
bike
cuts
had
its-
gone when we got
if
back,
the
and
bike
all
had
the
gone,
gear would have
or
been
more
knackered.
more importantly, if somebody had rummaged through your stuff and taken a couple of your bags or something like that, it would have been a bit of a disaster. So you tend to leave somebody with the bike all the time. So even from the point of view, if you're going to a bakery or something like that, you can't both go in and have a look and see what's available. One of you kind of stays with the bike and the other goes in. So it's a little bit limiting and a bit frustrating in that respect. There was a
But
couple of...
that's just biking on.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
Stuff
Of course
that
it is.
costs,
And there was
isn't it, really?
a couple of occasions where we'd parked up and we'd had a walk and we found ourselves walking, of course, with your jacket and your helmet,
Yeah, that's
because you
when it's
could
hot.
have locked them on your bike and blah blah blah, but you tend not to, and just a little bit minor frustrations. But that's just it was simply because we had such a lot of stuff. We had a month's worth of luggage for 2 people on one bike.
Yeah.
If we'd have been on 2 bikes, it would have been a different story. But there was some minor frustrations that kicked in that respect because of the length of the trip, I suppose. If it had been a week,
or a few nights, we wouldn't have needed
was
all the
only
stuff,
when we
and we would have had
weren't
loads of room. Every bag
in a
was
motel
full,
that day.
wasn't it?
It was.
Every bag was absolutely
It was like
packed
a game.
solid.
There's only you could have.
It was
got them
like
back
Tetris,
in.
trying to get it all back in the
I got
bike.
it back in because I'd have got it all wrong.
What else? I don't really think there was any other
I didn't have any issues. It's
issues
your
at all.
OCD one.
My OCD was a bit of a
You like everything
yeah,
in its
the problem
place.
because
and
sometimes everything couldn't be in its place, and anyway, that's by the by. That's my problem, nobody else's.
It is.
So let's have a look. I've got it on here somewhere. So the we did, just for anybody that's interested, we did 7,905 kilometres in 25 days. We finished up coming back a couple of nights early just because of the way things worked out. And in that time, we spent $4,117 on accommodation.
I could have had a lovely cruise.
$2,700 on food and drink, and $1,133 on fuel. So
That sounds a lot of money considering we don't drink too much alcohol.
it does,
really,
but
do
when
we?
you break it down, it's not
a lot
bad
of
really. We
coffees.
don't. Yeah, it's a lot of coffees, a lot of cakes. So the total cost for the trip was $7,950, which, considering we did 7,905 kilometres,
Yeah,
it was
it's
$1
not too
a k almost.
Yeah.
So that worked out at $318 a day.
Which we'd actually said we'd do it. We'd
just-
try and do it under 400.
Well, that was the sort of, we weren't trying to do it under anything, but we
were
guessed
trying to
that's what it
assess
would
about
be. So it
400 a
actually
day.
worked out a little bit, considering, as I say, we paid for the best accommodation we could find, and we basically ate the best food we could find most of the time, didn't we? We didn't skimp. We couldn't.
No, we had
what was
we had
available.
steak or we had,
Yeah, whatever. Anyway,
whatever we wanted.
so $318 a day, which is about £165 for anybody watching in the UK,
when
and
you say
about
best accommodation, we weren't going in
190
hotels.
No, we weren't
going
going in hotels. Come back to the hotel thing in a minute. So yeah, about £165 a day for accommodation, food and fuel, and which is about €190 a day. So I don't think that's bad, really. I think that's actually pretty good. We could have stayed in hotels, but in the main, a lot of the hotels only had on-street parking, which again meant leaving the bike.
We really would have liked a nice one in Adelaide,
Yes,
wouldn't we? But
yeah, we would.
it was all street parking.
It was all
and
street parking, and we just
things
didn't
would
like
have
the idea of
disappeared,
leaving the
wouldn't
bike on the street where we couldn't see it. The beauty of the motels is it's right outside your door.
And you can hear if anybody's
So it was
messing.
good in that respect. So, in summary, how would you summarise the whole trip then?
I enjoyed it because it was something we've never done. We've never done the Nullarbor. We've never been to Adelaide, which we thought was very much like Perth. Everywhere we went was quite familiar. Very much like the little
I think
coastal towns here.
the
but
whole
it,
trip-
But it was a good trip.
we definitely enjoyed the trip. It would be lovely to do another trip. We probably wouldn't. Again, I'll just come back to two people on one bike. We probably wouldn't do a trip that's as long. Certainly long weekends, maybe a week, no issues at all. We probably
Going on
wouldn't
your
do
own,
that.
You've got no issue.
Oh,
at
there's
all,
no
have
issue
you?
going
It's
on your own.
Just the packaging.
If
of
Angie
the
could
stuff.
ride her own bike, it would been a different thing altogether. It was just a little bit frustrating.
Too much
in-
wildlife to be.
Oh yeah, that doesn't suit you. I get that. But we probably wouldn't do that length of a trip again. But certainly being away on the bike, making it up as you go along was great,
Yeah.
wasn't it? We really enjoyed that aspect.
Yeah.
The slight frustration that we have here in Western Australia, and looking back, it was the one kind of off-putting thing. We've got to travel from home about 4.5 days to get
Over
to the
this.
other side, to Ceduna, where you start with the kind of interesting stuff, where you start with Adelaide and beyond. So a 4.5 day, relatively boring ride
Which
to
is
get
4.5
to
days back as well.
essentially where your holiday starts, and then you make of it what you will. But frustratingly, you've obviously got the same 4.5 days to come back, and
That's a
there's
lot
no
of
other way
holiday,
to go. So that's 9 days out of your holiday, which is a bit. The first time you do it, it was fascinating because we didn't know what the Nullarbor was going to be like, and it was interesting. Even though there's not a lot going on, it was really interesting. We did enjoy it.
I expect it to be more desert-like.
I ideally didn't want to do it on the way back. I wanted to go a different way, but there is no other way. So It was good though. It was all
It was
good.
very
We did
interesting.
enjoy it, and now that we've been back a little while, we have been back a little bit more than a few days. To be honest, there's just been things going on. It's the first time we've had a chance to sit down and do this. But now that it's sort of been and gone, I'm sort of thinking about doing something else. It'd be nice to do something else. It was good. It was good. So we'll leave it at that, shall we? As I said before, if you have watched all these videos, I really appreciate you sticking with us. I know these travel videos aren't necessarily everybody's cup of tea, but if you've got this far, good on you. So we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for watching. Thanks for joining us at Handlebars and Holidays, and hopefully we'll see you again soon with something else. Take care and ride safe. Bye.
That microphone's just fell off on my lips.
Oh, you found it? You got it?
Yeah, I've got it, but it's...
Don't know why that keeps coming off.
The microphone.
Come on, come on, come on. I've just realised my visor's open. He's gonna shove my way in. Here I am. Okay, so you cut. So while I'm talking now, don't say anything. You'll bugger it up. Come on, dropped it. And another set of traffic lights. Come on, go gadget. So that's essentially it. We've just minutes. I'll start that again. How many times am I going to do this? That'll do.